We are continuing with our coverage from the New Orleans Investment Conference, and joining me now is Doug Casey, founder of Casey Research and the author of one of the greatest selling financial books of all time. Doug, thank you for being with me today.
Thanks, Danielle. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you came off a very entertaining panel right now alongside Mark Faber and Peter Schiff. Mark Skousen was chairing it. My first question to you, before we get into the details, is, are we doomed, Doug?
No, we're not doomed. As I pointed out, the future is not only going to be better than you can imagine, it's going to be better than you can imagine, because technology is going to keep compounding it on itself, and the average guy will, for his own benefit, keep producing and saving. But we're going to go through a really, really rough spot, starting any time between tomorrow morning and in the next year. At this point, we're exiting the eye of the hurricane, where we've been in since 2007, 2008, 2009. We're going into the trailing edge of the hurricane. It's going to last a long time, and it's going to be very, very severe.
Okay. So you're saying we're not doomed, which is an optimistic point of view, Doug, and I think most people think that you're a pessimist. So
no. Look, all the real wealth in the world, the skills in people's hands, the knowledge in their minds, the buildings, the factories, the farms, that's all going to be here. That's not going to go away. It's just the financial system, the economic system that's going to collapse, and there's going to be a huge change of ownership of those things, which is going to be very unpleasant and inconvenient for a lot of people. But no, the real wealth is still here.
Okay, so let's talk about the financial system. Do you think that the U.S. will go over the fiscal cliff?
Yes, of course. Europe is going to go first. They're going over it right now. There's beyond the point of no return, as far as I'm concerned, for Europe and for Japan and the U.S. and China, all the developed economies, quite frankly. This is why I'm a fan of undeveloped economies, third world economies that don't have any debt because nobody will lend them any money.
Right. So in the presentation, Mark Faber was saying one of the primary reasons that America finds itself in this situation is that people have this sense of entitlement. And you agreed with that. Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, to me, the most important thing in a society is that the individuals in that society, in that culture, have a sense of personal responsibility, taking responsibility for themselves first. You can't help other people if you're not in good position yourself, then helping their family and their friends beyond that, and then they can help the community. But the way things are working in the world today is the government is taking responsibility for everybody, which makes people irresponsible. And when people act irresponsibly as a culture, of course it's all going to collapse eventually.
Okay, an aspect which was not brought up, however, was education. And that's something that Obama wants to spend more on, obviously. What do you think needs to be done here?
I think that all of the solutions for education that are being put forward are exactly not just wrong, they're the opposite of the right thing. These idiots want to throw more money at schools, and first of all, most of the values that are being taught in schools today by the kind of people that unfortunately become teachers today are counterproductive or actually destructive. Education is something that you do for yourself. You educate yourself. Somebody doesn't educate you. And a college degree, for instance, is greatly overvalued. It's ridiculous for most people to go to college to clutter their minds up with everything from gender studies to political science to all these wishy-washy subjects that people take. Education is something you should do for yourself, and you should really only even think about going to college and indebting yourself, turning yourself into an indentured servant for many years, if you're going to learn a hard science, perhaps.
But shouldn't more be done to make it affordable then, Doug?
How do you make it more affordable?
Well, look at Canada.
Well, I don't think that's a good example. I would say that the way education will become more affordable is by getting the government out of education, so that these schools, whether it be Harvard or online colleges, have to compete like any other businesses in the marketplace, which means they'll have to prove that they can deliver an excellent product at the lowest cost possible.
But you still need the degree to get a job, even though you're saying...
Not at our shop.
Right, so you'll hire...
We don't care when we hire people, whether they have a degree or not. What we care about is whether they have good character, number one, whether they're intelligent, diligent, hardworking, want to improve themselves, and I don't see how a degree, especially the kind of degrees people are getting today, has anything to do with any of that. If somebody comes to work for us and has an MBA, we look at them and say, what's going on in your head that you allocated another $100,000 in 2 years of your time to get more theory when you should have been out there doing?
Right. But obviously people are impressed by the college degree. I know you're a Georgetown graduate, and people hear that.
I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed, no. Frankly, most people that go to college spend the time drinking, chasing girls. No, it's a misallocation for most people of 4 years of their time and a whole bunch of their parents' money. Okay. So think twice.
Okay. Let's get back to politics a second. Election around the corner. Whether Obama or Romney comes into power, what do you think is the first thing that needs to be done?
Oh, it would be start abolishing laws. But these idiots are going to do just the opposite. They have these programs where they're going to pass more laws, of which there are hundreds of thousands of pages now. So it doesn't matter which one of them are elected. They're both collectivists, they're both statists. The only difference is the rhetoric that they use and which part of the mob they want to appeal to. So I don't know, and I really don't care which one wins. Although I think Obama's actually going to win. But I'm not a good political handicapper of American candidates.
So let's bring this home, Doug, tie it all together and look at gold and the role it will play within this context. How do you see it positioned right now?
Well, gold remains the only financial asset that's not simultaneously somebody else's liability. And all of these governments all over the world are printing up trillions of currency units, and they're accelerating the pace of doing so. So I think there's going to be a panic into gold. There's going to be a mania in gold. There's going to be a bubble in gold in the future. And even though, as we speak now, it's at 1,700 or something like that, it's no longer cheap.
Right.
But it's going a lot higher. Now, we're looking at the biggest economic upset since the Industrial Revolution. And gold, I'll say it again, it's the only financial asset that's not simultaneously somebody else's liability.
And Doug, when you say higher, what are those numbers?
Oh, that's crystal ball gazing, Danielle. It depends on how stupid the government is and how out of line the mob psychology becomes. But by the time this comes to a peak, I wouldn't be surprised in real terms, today's dollars anyway, to see the equivalent of $5,000 per ounce. But of course that may be 10 or 15, considering how badly they're going to inflate the currency. Guessing wildly.
Doug Casey, thank you so much for your thoughts.
My pleasure, Danielle. Thank you.
And thanks for watching our coverage from the New Orleans Investment Conference. We'll have more for you on kitco.com.